Hello there, friends. Welcome to this Happy Hips Flow. For this class, make sure you have a couple of blocks and grab a blanket if you like to have any extra support underneath your knees when you are down on your mat. As always, your body, your practice. If I do something that doesn't feel right for you, please feel free to skip it, modify it, or choose something else that you know feels good for your body. We'll get started down in a child's pose. So bring your knees wide, big toes touch, and then gently press your hips back towards your heels. Reach your palms out in front. Rest your forehead down on your mat. Close your eyes. Start here with some big full breaths in and out. Feeling those hips sink back towards your heels with each exhale. So breathing in, big full breath. As you exhale, just let that all release. As we move through this hips focused flow today, let's work on the concept of letting go. And on our mat, it's going to be letting go of that tightness and that tension, allowing a little bit of a release through this area of our body. But also off of your mat, maybe think about something that you can let go of. Maybe it's stress or worry over something that's coming up. Maybe it is a judgmental thought that's coming up in your mind frequently. Just whatever arises in your mind, give yourself some space here to let it go. One more big full breath. Next inhale, let's come up onto all fours into a tabletop position. Bring your knees underneath your hips, wrists underneath your shoulders. Start here with some circles in your dancing lions. So just making a circular pattern here, bringing shoulders over wrists, hips back towards heels. Do a few going around in one direction and then switch and go back the opposite way. Once you've done a few going both directions, we'll stop here again in our tabletop position. Take a few gentle cat-cows. On an inhale, drop your belly, reach your sternum forward, lift your sit bones up behind you. And then on your exhale, start to tuck your pelvis, separate those shoulder blades away, push the mat away as you tuck your chin. And then move through a few rounds of cat-cow on your own breath, inhaling through cow, exhaling through cat, pausing anywhere that you feel like you might need to let go just a little bit more. Anywhere you feel that sticky, tight feeling. And then an invitation here in your cat-cow to take this into like a rolling cat-cow. So maybe add in some more of those lateral movements by squeezing hip and shoulder towards one another on the left. Coming through your cat, squeezing hip and shoulder towards one another on the right. And then just kind of rolling through this movement. It doesn't need to look a certain way, just getting kind of bendy here through all areas of the spine. We're taking it through flexion and extension and moving laterally as well. Once you feel warm in that area, let's walk our hands forward slightly, curl those toes underneath, and then lift your hips up into your first downward facing dog. And then an invitation here to do anything that feels good. You could bend one knee, drop the heel, start to walk out the dog. You could take your hips side to side if that would feel good. Just any little wiggles here before we start our flow. Got one more breath. And then let's inhale, lift that right leg up, bend the knee. Big hip circles with that right leg. So like you're drawing the most giant circle with your right knee. Do a few going each direction. And then we'll start to bring that right knee in towards the nose. We'll plant the right foot between the feet. Come down onto that back knee. This is where you can slide that blanket underneath if that would feel good. We'll come into our Anjane. So you can have your blocks underneath your hands here. Allow the hips to come forward, pelvis to come down. Keep hugging in through the belly. Keep the sternum lifted up so that we're not rounding over that front leg. You can even squeeze this back glute muscle to help open up through the front of the left hip. We'll stay here for a full breath. And then we'll take this into a little bit of a kind of a flow through a few poses. So curl your back toes underneath. We'll lift the back knee up. Inhale the arms up. We'll come into our high crescent lunge. So we're continuing to feel that stretch going up the front of the back thigh. Bring your right hand to your right hip. Take the left arm over towards the right and then back slightly, exalting our crescent lunge, continuing that stretch up the front of the body. And then we'll take our hands back down to our blocks, lower your back knee down, uncurl those toes, shift your hips back, come into Ardha Hanumanasana half split. So you can slide your blocks or your hands back, fold forward over that front leg, point your right toes up towards the ceiling. And then we'll inhale forward, Anjaneyasana. We'll do that again a few more times. So curl the back toes underneath. Inhale up high, crescent lunge. We'll move a little bit faster now. Right hand to right hip. Exalt your crescent. Left arm over and back. Come back down to your Anjaneyasana. Hands to blocks. Lower that back knee. Uncurl the toes. Shift your hips back. Straighten the front leg. Fold forward. Full breath in. Full breath out. Let's inhale back forward. Anjaneyasana one more time. Curl those toes underneath. Let's inhale it up high crescent lunge. Hand to hip. Exalt your crescent. Exhale, hands come back down to the blocks. Lower that back knee. Uncurl the toes. Shift the hips back. Half split. Big breath in. Big breath out. Last time. Forward for Anjaneyasana, curl those toes underneath, lift off of that back knee, inhale up high crescent lunge. Right hand to right hip, exalt and stretch. Open up the chest maybe a little bit more on this one. Exhale, hands come back down, Anjaneyasana. Lower that back knee, uncurl those toes, shift the hips back, Ardha Hanumanasana. Stay here in your half split. Fold forward. If you're using the blocks, you can take them with you, or you can stay on your hands. We'll walk our hands to the outside of that right leg and then shift the hips to the left slightly. Now we'll walk our hands to the inside of that right leg, shift the hips to the right. And we'll continue walking our hands towards the left, and we'll just shift on this shin to face the side of our mat. Point the right toes towards the side of the mat. We've got like gate pose legs here. And then we'll walk our hands forward, take a little puppy stretch. Lowering the chest down, lifting the seat up. Next, inhale, press down into the hands. Walk your hands underneath your shoulders. Just do a few little rocks back and forth here through the hips. And then we'll thread this left shin through. We'll actually just come down onto our seat. So you'll just kind of bring this left foot underneath. We'll come down onto your seat. And we've landed in like a half wide-legged forward fold. And we'll just fold forward over our legs here. Still warming up and letting go and releasing through the hips. Let's just walk forward slightly. Fold and breathe. And then we'll come back up to center. So restack the spine. We'll turn to face the back of the mat and just come onto this left knee. We'll cross the right knee behind the left in like a little cross leg situation. Reach your hands to the right corner of your mat and then press your hips back. This is like I call this like a cross-legged child's pose. Big breath in, big breath out. Press down into those hands. Let's unwind the legs. We'll come into down dog facing the back of the mat, but go ahead and slide your blocks to the back of your mat because we'll do the left side and you'll want your blocks handy. So we'll step it right back into our downward facing dog. Any little wiggles here. So we're facing the back of the mat now. Let's inhale and lift the left leg up, bend the knee. Hip circles on this side. Draw big giant circles with that knee. Couple each direction. And then bring left knee in towards the nose. Plant that left foot lower onto the back knee. Slide those blocks under your hands if you need them. Shift your hips forward. We'll stay here in our Anjaneyasana for a full breath. Think about relaxing through the shoulders, keeping the chest lifted. Everything's hugging in here through the midsection. And then squeezing, activating that right glute, opening through the front of the right hip. Let's go ahead, curl those toes underneath on the right leg. Let's lift that left or the right knee up. Sorry, left foot is forward. Inhale, arms up. We're in our high crescent lunge. If you need to have a little bend in that back knee, you can. Think about having energy going out through that back heel. Left hand to left hip. Right arm reaches towards the left, back slightly stretching the front. Right side. Exhale, hands come back down to the blocks. We'll lower that back knee down, uncurl the toes, shift those hips back to your half split. This is our little flow here, back and forth. So point the left toes up towards the ceiling. Next inhale, we'll come forward for Anjaneyasana. Again, curl those toes underneath. We'll lift it up high, crescent lunge. Left hand to left hip, exalt your crescent. Take that right arm over towards the left and then maybe see if you can reach it back slightly, right where you start to feel that stretch. Next, exhale, hands come back down to blocks, lower that back knee, uncurl the toes, shift those hips back, reach your sit bones back behind you. Almost imagine like you're drawing this left heel back towards the hip. Next inhale, we'll shift it back forward, low lunge, curl the toes underneath, inhale it up high, crescent. Left hand to left hip, exalt your crescent. Exhale, hands come back down to the blocks, lower your back knee down, uncurl your toes, shift the hips back, Ardha Hanumanasana, half split. Fold it forward. We'll do one more round of this. So next inhale, let's come forward. Anjaneyasana, low lunge. Curl the toes underneath. Lift it up to your high crescent lunge. Exhale, left hand to left hip. Exalt. Maybe open the chest a little bit more on this one. Exhale, hands come back down to the blocks. Lower your back knee. Uncurl those toes. Shift the hips back. Stay here in your half split. So we're really hinging at the hip, folding forward over that front leg. If you're using your blocks, you can take them with you or you can come down onto your hands. We'll walk the hands to the outside of that left leg. Shift your hips towards the right. Walk your hands to the inside. Shift your hips towards the left. And then we'll continue walking our hands as we kind of turn to face the side of the mat. We've got our gate pose legs here. Walk your hands out in front of you, palms face down. Exhale, lower chest down towards the mat. Continue lifting your sit bones up high behind you. Little puppy stretch through the chest. And then press down through those palms, lift the chest, walk the hands underneath your shoulders, take some hip rocks back and forth. Let's do one more. And then we'll come down onto our seat. So just kind of shift that shin so you're not sitting down on your heel or your block. Move that out of the way. We land here in our little wide-legged, half wide-legged forward fold. Let's fold forward. So we'll walk the hands forward in front. Kind of find your edge there and then take some deep breaths. Notice in your body, I can right here, where you can maybe let go. And for me, a lot of times when I'm reaching forward, it's the shoulders. So not letting the shoulders rise up into the ears, maybe relax through the neck and the jaw. Maybe you're clenching here, like through this left leg, maybe even through the feet. Just let it go. Last breath. And then we'll walk it on up, restack your spine. This time we'll turn to face the front of the mat. And then we'll cross this left leg behind the right. Walk your hands towards the left corner of the mat, little cross-legged child's pose. So the hips are still kind of high on this one, but we feel this stretch through the outer hips and into the glutes. Press down through the palms. We'll lift it up, unwind, and then we'll come right back into our downward dog. We're back at the front of the mat now. Big inhale in through the nose. Let it go through your mouth. Let's inhale and lift the right leg up, bend the knee, open the hip. So kick the heel towards the glute, point your knee up towards the ceiling. Start to bring your right knee in towards your nose, plant your right foot. Let's cartwheel up into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. So we've got our right heel lining up with the left inner arch. Reach your arms out in opposite directions. Check in with your right knee. Track it towards like the middle, second or third toe. And then we'll come into Skandasana. So we'll bring hands towards heart, work to straighten the front leg. You'll spin your back heel in so slightly. sit it down. We'll press right back up to warrior two. So we'll turn those toes forward and then flow back and forth here a few times. So warrior two to skandasana, like our surfer's lunge. And this doesn't have to be super low. You'll come onto the right heel. We're setting our hips back towards kind of like that left heel. Back up to warrior two. Let's do 2 more times. Exhale, skandasana. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, skandasana. Inhale, warrior two. From warrior two, let's come back into our skandasana, and then we'll turn to face the back of the mat. Hands can come down on blocks or the mat. We'll shift onto the back toes and then walk this left foot out to the side of the mat. And we'll come into our high lizard lunge here. You can rock forward and back a few times. Just another little hip opener. You can come down onto that back knee if that would feel good. Just take a couple breaths here in your lizard lunge. And then we'll come, if you're on that back knee, come back onto the toes, lift it up, and we'll do some pulses here through lizard and kind of like a little pyramid lunge. So if you want to have your blocks under your hands, you can grab those again. So we've got like our lizard lunge, and go ahead and take your left hand on the outside of the foot. So we're kind of in more of like a crescent, but we'll stay in our lizard position here. And what we'll do is pulse forward a couple times, and then on your exhale, lift your hips up, straighten your front leg, come onto the heel. Now this back heel doesn't need to come all the way down, but we'll work to kind of straighten both legs and fold forward. Probably feeling the stretch going up the back of that front leg. If you need to shorten your stance, you can. And then we'll pulse forward again. So let's do that 2 more times. Pulse forward, exhale back. Inhale, pulse forward. Exhale back. In this pyramid, let's go ahead and just start to walk our hands to the right, and we'll just turn our toes to face the right side of our mat. You can bring your blocks with you if you're using them. And we'll take a little wide-legged forward fold here, so you can have hands on blocks or the mat. We'll inhale, exhale, hinge at the hips, fold it forward, and release. If you want to wiggle around, you can. Or if you want to just static stretch and reach, that's also an option. 1 more big full breath. And then we'll inhale, half lift. Fun little transition here. Heel toe your feet towards the center of your mat. And then once you arrive kind of where your feet would be, toes pointed out for a yogi squat, just bend your knees and lower your seat down. And we'll take a malasana here just at the center of the mat. So press your upper arms to the inside of those thighs. You can rock back and forth. This is like our ultimate hip stretch. I feel like everyone needs to do a yogi squat like multiple times per day. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I just need the yogi squat. It's so good for us. All right, from your squat, if you need to use your hands, you can. Otherwise, let's just come right down onto our seat. Lift your knees up in front of you. Take a quick little boat pose facing the side of our mat. I know that this feels super weird, but hey, we're going to go with it. And then we'll cross the left heel down towards the right hip. Right leg crosses over, half Lord of the Fishes. If you need to extend this bottom leg out long, you can. Let's inhale and get a super long spine. Reach your right arm up overhead and then lead with your sternum towards the right, taking a twist. Right hand comes behind you. Left hand can hug that right knee in towards the chest. Few full breaths. Make sure you're using those obliques to help you twist. If your blocks are on your mat, slide them out of your way. And then we'll turn forward on our inhale. Actually take a little counter twist to face the back of the mat. Place your hands down and we'll just step into our down dog facing the back. We're kind of moving front to back to front today, aren't we? So let's inhale. Left leg lifts up, bend the knee, open that left hip. So kick the heel in towards the booty, open the knee up. And then we'll bring the left knee forward, or towards the back, I should say. Plant that left foot, cartwheel up, Virabhadrasana 2 on the left. So we'll take that same little Virabhadrasana 2 to Skandasana flow here. So we're inhaling in our warrior 2, shoulders down away from the ears. Exhale, start to straighten that left leg, turn your right heel in, bend the knee, lower the hips down, Skandasana. Inhale it back up, warrior 2. Let's do that 3 times down to Skandasana. Exhale, Skandasana. Inhale, warrior two. Only go down as low as you can get back up. This doesn't have to be like super high. Last one here, exhale down Skandasana. Inhale, warrior two. Next exhale, come back towards that Skandasana, and then we'll turn to face the front of the mat, walk into your high lizard lunge. So hands on blocks here or the mat, right foot walks out towards the right side of the mat, and then whatever feels good here, like pulses back and forth. My jam in lizard lunge is like back knee down and then hip rocks. So a few breaths here. Find where you need to let go. Where do you need that release? One more full breath. Let's go ahead and curl those back toes underneath, lift the back knee up, grab your blocks, and we'll try those pulses. So we've got our blocks framing that front foot. Hips pulse forward 2 times. Exhale, straighten that front leg, come onto the heel. Inhale, pulse forward. Exhale, lift those hips up. Last one here. Inhale, pulse forward. Exhale, hips lift up. Start to walk your hands to the inside of that right leg. We'll turn to face the side again and take our wide-legged forward fold. So take an inhale, get a long spine. Exhale, fold it forward. You can take those wiggles again. Thread your arms through. Whatever feels good. One more big full breath. Next inhale, let's take into a half lift. Hands come underneath the shoulders, long spine. Start to heel toe the feet in for your yogi squat. Lower your seat down, take your malasana, take your wiggles. And then using hands or not, come down onto your seat and lift up for Navasana boat pose here. Facing sideways, it's so strange, but that's good. It's good for our brains to face different directions. Right heel towards left hip. Cross that left leg over. You can always extend this leg out long if that's feeling like too much. Let's inhale. Reach the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. Reach your left arm up. Exhale. Lead with your heart towards the left. Left hand comes behind you. Right arm can hug in. Few breaths here in your twist. Notice where you're feeling the release in this stretch. This is a good one I like to do every day. I tend to hold a lot of tension in my hips, and some of these stretches, it's like, I could do this every day. All right, next inhale, let's turn to face forward. Continue to counter twist towards the front of your mat. Just like we did before, hands come down. We'll step up into our down dog. Any little wiggles. And then we'll take a pigeon prep on each side, just because that's like the ultimate hip release pose here. So we'll inhale right leg up, exhale right knee towards right wrist. We'll come onto the right shin. And then here, if you need a little extra support underneath this right hip, you can slide a block or a rolled up blanket to help get your hips square. You don't want to have that hip just like floating out in space. So put a little prep underneath it if you're having a hard time getting those hips square. Make sure you're off of that back kneecap. This leg does not need to be parallel to the front of the mat. As you can see, mine is not. It probably never will be. That's okay. So we'll inhale, long spine, exhale. Let's just fold forward over that front leg. You can have blocks under your hands or forearms. And then here, let's take 5 super intentional deep breaths. With each inhale, I want you to think about something that you can let go of. And with each exhale, imagine that just floating farther away from you. So maybe that's that stress or that worry. And then also within your physical body, notice if you're clenching or holding on to tightness anywhere. Inhale a big breath in. On your exhale, allow that to release. Final breath in. Let it all go. Final breath out. Next inhale, start to walk your hands back towards your hips. Place them underneath your shoulders. Let's curl back toes underneath. Carefully lift that right leg back up into your three-legged dog. You're probably feeling like super different between the two sides. That's normal. Inhale, left leg comes up. Left knee towards left wrist. Same thing here. We'll come down onto the left shin. Slide a prop underneath that hip if you need it. Work to get those hips facing forward. So you want to square the hips to the front of the mat. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, fold it forward on this side. And you may notice a big difference between the two sides. Totally normal. We all have different imbalances. The two sides of our body. Same thing here. 5 big breaths. Breathe it in. And then let it go. Check in with any areas that are clenching, tight, tense. And if you're not able to feel that letting go or that release, maybe come out a little bit. Maybe you're folded a little too far forward. Maybe you need a little bit more support underneath that hip. Final breath. This is one that I feel like I could stay in all day. All right, let's inhale. Hands come back under shoulders. Curl those toes underneath. Let's lift up to down dog. One more time. Any final walking out or wiggles? And then when you're ready, you can come down onto your knees, cross your ankles, come down on to your seat. And then let's roll down onto our backs. Slowly, one vertebrae at a time, bring those knees in towards your chest. Maybe take a couple stirs with your knees in both directions. And then let's cross the right leg over the left. Scoot your hips towards the right slightly. Come onto the left outer hip and then drop your knees over towards the left. If this cross leg is too much, just stack your knees. Reach your right arm up and overhead out to the side. A few breaths here and a final twist. Whatever's arising in your mind, see if it's something that you can let go of for the next few minutes. Our class is all about release in the hips. What else can you let go of today? Last breath. Let's inhale, come back up towards center, uncross the legs. Let's take it the opposite way. So left knee over the right. Work to stack those hips. I always kind of have to tuck my right hip underneath. Knees drop over towards the right. Reach your left arm up overhead and then open it big and wide out to the left. Work to get both shoulder blades down towards the mat. As always, if that's too intense, just stack the knees. Notice if you're holding on to anything right here. Any tension, tightness, clenching of the jaw. Relax. Let it go. Let's inhale, come back up to center. You can take your normal Shavasana by reaching your legs down towards opposite corners of the mat. If you'd like to take a Supta Baddha Konasana, since we've kind of opened up through the hips, I'm going to grab my blocks to just show you can use some props. You don't have to, but you can have them handy there in case you think you might like them. We'll keep the knees bent and just open them out to the sides. Bring the soles of the feet together. And just work to let the knees open. So we've got gravity here coming into play. If this is feeling okay, you can reach your arms out to your sides like Shavasana. Close down your eyes. If it's feeling super intense, you can always take a block that's like angled to support underneath the knee. So you'll have it kind of on the bottom of the thigh there and the top of the shin. And I like to have them angled so you've got the flat spot and not the corner resting into your legs. So you can have those props there. Wherever you are, let's take one big breath in through the nose. Let it go out through your mouth. Start to relax all the way up through the bottoms of your feet, to your ankles, your legs. Pause at the area of your hips and your pelvis. Notice if there's any tiny little areas that still feel tight or tense. Take a big inhale in. Imagine the breath going to this area, and on your exhale out, picture it all releasing. Continue up through your belly, ribs and chest. Relax your shoulders, down through your arms, wrists, fingers. Feel a softness going up through the sides of your neck into your jaw, your face, behind your eyes, forehead. Let it go all the way up through the crown of your head. If you have a few more minutes to stay here in your final resting pose, I'll invite you to do so. Thank you so much for joining me.